Good morning, Jim McKinnon with Money Management. You remember yesterday we got into this book that I told you about, which is an absolutely phenomenal book called Let's Roll by Lisa Beamer. Lisa's husband, Todd, was on the plane that went down. So to kind of give you a quick recap, there were 3 planes that were hijacked that day. The first 2 had already flown into the World Trade Center. Of course, the people on board the 3rd plane really had no way of knowing that, except that one of them happened to place a call to the service center of United, and they told them that, and then they pretty much figured out that they were heading someplace. They didn't know where, maybe Washington, who knows, but they were heading someplace so they could crash into it and create a lot of deaths and a lot of problems. And Lisa Jefferson was the lady's name. It came about 8:45 in the morning, and she said the man talking to her was so calm she couldn't believe it. It happened to be Todd Beamer, and she was asking what was going on, and he was telling her, and then she told him about the World Trade Center, which he did not know. And she said from that point on, they both, even though they didn't say it, they both pretty much assumed that this plane was not going to land. They were not going to ask for money. They were interested in killing people. And she asked Todd, what did he see? And he said there were 2 people lying on the floor. They appeared to be dead, and they assumed it was a pilot and co-pilot because the hijackers had gone into the main cockpit. And it was just a foregone conclusion that it was not going to be a good ending. And there were a lot of people on this plane. There were a lot of people involved besides just Todd in making up a plan to rush the cockpit. They just sort of got together spontaneously and said, "Look, guys, we're going to die. We're going to die. Whether we can choose when and how, or we can let the hijackers choose when and how. But living is not a choice. So when we go down, let's go down in the most expeditious way, where we hurt as few people as possible." And it was just amazing that after they stormed the cockpit, that all they had for a weapon, one guy had a butter knife, like they'd got for breakfast. That's all they had. And that the stewardess had 2 hot things of coffee, not coffee, but they had hot water and coffee pots that they could use. So they had no weapons. Now, the only weapons supposedly that the hijackers had were knives. That was it. And one guy had a bomb stripped, tied to him. They thought that was a fake, but they didn't know. And when they started coming, the other 2 hijackers who were outside went into the cabin and locked the door, trying to keep the people out. And however, they could tell that wasn't going to work. And when they started doing that, the plane got into just a terrible problem. It was going to the left, the right, and it wasn't going up, it was going down. And they say that the best pilot in the world, if they had got in there in time, which they did not, the best pilot in the world could not have brought that plane up, because it had started just straight down, and that's where it landed. It landed in the field. Of course, it completely disintegrated, and everybody on there was just blown into pieces. And they probably never will find all the pieces. I don't know that. It's a gross thing. It was a terrible thing for innocent people who just happened to be taking the wrong flight, the wrong time. And it's just, hey guys, it's the breaks of life. We can't control that. But one thing that keeps coming up again and again and again is Todd Beamer was a Christian. Todd Beamer knew where he was going. And before he went with a lady he was talking to on the phone, they recited the Lord's Prayer together. And then she heard Todd reading or saying the 23rd Psalm, and she heard other people joining in. So we know that God was with them. Why God's let them die, nobody's going to know the reason for that. Why did he let all the people at the World Trade Center die? People jumping out, from hundreds of feet out of the World Trade Center, rather than be burned to death. I mean, 9/11 is something we should never forget. That was the worst day in history, I think. because we had done nothing to provoke that attack, yet hundreds of people died that day through no fault of their own. And if Todd Beamer and his other cohorts had not rushed that cabin, that plane would have probably gone into the capital of Washington, Camp David. It was heading someplace and they didn't know where. But it would not have landed on the ground. It would have taken out a lot more lives. So yes, they're heroes. They're all heroes. Todd Beamer is the one that's recognized as, probably being the #1 instigator, and Lisa's very humble. She says, that sounds like Todd, but she wants everybody to know there were a lot of people involved in there besides Todd. But Todd was definitely a hero. This is a horrible thing. I think there's a lesson for us, but we can never forget it. We got to always be on guard and always be ready, folks, because we never know. You never know when this day is going to be your last day for every one of us. One day it's going to be your last day on earth. And you better be ready when you leave this earth. You better know where you're going. You better know why you're going. And I hope this is something you enjoyed. I just gave you such a small part of this. If you can go out and buy the book, it's called Let's Roll by Lisa Beamer. I think you'll enjoy it. If you don't, call me and I'll give you your money back. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day.